Welcome,
All right.
everyone. I am so excited to welcome Steve Go to the show today. He is the owner of Premier Project Management out of Philadelphia. And I just want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself, give him a little bit of a background on himself and his company, and then we'll kind of hop in from there. So, welcome, Steve. Thanks for joining me.
Great. Thank you, Dominic, for the invite. So, in terms of background on myself, born and raised in Philly, so lived in southeastern PA all my life. Kind of came up through parochial schools for elementary, and then I got the opportunity in high school to go to one of our prestige magnet high schools in Philadelphia, which is called George Washington Carver High School for Engineering and Science. Very long name. For short, all of us alumni just call it E&S. So we all went to engineering and science. Very small school. And very technical in its approach. So that was kind of my entree into, and actually it led me into my career that I am in today. We had the good fortune of Turner Construction adopting our high school, and in 11th grade, my guidance counselor, she was taking a look at my resume, the resume I drafted at that point, and she's like, you don't have a lot. You're a good student. You don't have a lot of extracurriculars. Why don't you spruce up your resume a bit and apply for this internship at Turner? And I said, sure, yeah, why not? So I took that opportunity, got the internship, and 25 years later, here I am in this field, which a field that I didn't think was available to me, or I didn't really know about either. So yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, most people at that young of an age don't know what they want to do. So it's kind of a rare occasion where you find kind of your passion at that such a young age, and then you just take off. You've been in it for over 2 decades now. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I don't know if I knew it then. I certainly didn't know it then. I thought of it more or less as, okay, well, this is a job. I would go in after class, so 3 or 3 o'clock, 3 or 3:30, I'd take a bus into downtown Philly, or high school was fairly close to Center City, Philadelphia. So I'd take the bus in, work for 2 hours. Initially they give you grunt jobs. So back then you couldn't email drawing files, right? So it was a lot of print reproduction. So there'd be a whole room of FedEx tubes and repro prints that I have to package together and then send them out to subcontractors for bidding. So I did a lot of stuff like that. But over time they took the time, I would say, to teach me. They taught me how to read drawings. I kind of learned project management directly from them. They put me out in the field at 19, which is kind of crazy, but they did. So yeah, it was all over time. I grew a love and a passion for the industry.
So let me ask you this then. So you start with Turner. What kind of sparked the interest in breaking off and branching into starting your own company, which is, Premier Project Management?
Yeah, so great question. I always had I would say an entrepreneurial spirit. So my father owned small businesses growing up, and we come from an immigrant background. So my father's originally from Vietnam, my mom's from Guatemala, and I just observed their work ethic and their hustle and drive, and that was embedded upon us to have that same motivation and drive. So I knew at some point in my career I would want to open up some kind of business. I didn't know what. I would say I was very fortunate in terms of how things evolved over time. So I went to Drexel, so local to Philly, and the reason for that was they had the co-op program. So I did the 5 year three co-op program, which is great because it really gives you an opportunity for 6 full months, so full-time work for 6 months, working at in an industry within a company. So that gives you the ability to kind of test out and figure out, okay, is this the career that I want? Is this the degree that I want? I know a lot of people after their first co-op, they ended up switching tracks because they were like, oh, you know what? I didn't realize it was going to be like this. I don't want to be in front of a computer 8 hours a day. Like, let me switch. But for me, two out of the three co-ops were with Turner again, and then one was with Skanska USA. So I kind of knew at that point in time, okay, this is the career that I want to be in. It's very challenging, where there's a lot of problem solving. So you're constantly on your toes, using your brain, trying to problem solve every given day. So after I graduated from Drexel, I got the opportunity to work on the opposite side of the table, which was for an owner. So I worked for Tishman Speyer. They owned a million square foot portfolio right outside of Ballackinwood, or right outside of Philly, in a suburb called Ballackinwood. Very affluent, a great property, and I really got to see a whole different side of the industry working for them, working for the owner. So kind of seeing how, working directly with leasing on the ground. So we'd structure package deals together to support leasing and then eventually perform build outs. So that was a whole different ball game for me. I'm at that point on the owner side directing the likes of Turner, other GCs, like, this is the type of work that we're doing, contracting them to perform that work on behalf of our tenants. And it was very, very enlightening to see kind of both sides of the coin, so to speak.
Gives you a
So
respect
from
for both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that experience has given me the ability to kind of leverage both sides in terms of what I do today. So fast forward, I worked for Tishman. I then jumped over to CBRE as they were starting off their project management platform in the Philly metro area. I then worked for Siemens Real Estate. So traveling the country, doing project work directly for them, supporting the various business units. So industry, energy, healthcare. And that gave me an opportunity to work on different project types that I had never worked on before. So manufacturing, logistical centers, still did a fair share of corporate office, corporate interiors, but data centers, it really opened my world in terms of my experience with different projects and project types. And then, 2016, so my last full year with Siemens, I flew. So my contract stipulated 50% travel, and the year before, 2015, I had gotten married. We were expecting, and 2016, I probably flew over 100,000 miles. So I had a project in Atlanta, one in Chicago, one in Dallas, one in Seattle. So every other week I would fly two legs. So I'd have to pick two of the cities. So one week it'd be Atlanta to Dallas, the other week Chicago to Seattle. And I was really gone from Sunday afternoon to about Friday evening. And I was worn out. We had our and my wife was shouldering all of this back at home, and I'm like, man, I got to get back to Philly. Like I can't do this travel gig anymore. It became too much living out of a suitcase, going to the rental car place and going to the hotel. I'd wake up. I didn't know what city I was in. I mean,
Yeah.
it was tough. I had kept in touch with my colleagues over at Tishman Speyer during the course of this. From then it was like 2005. This was about 2016. So we're talking about 11 years. But I had kept in touch with my former colleagues at Tishman, and I was telling them, like I really want to find a job back in Philly, home based. I can't do this travel thing anymore. And they kept telling me, look, there may be an opportunity. At the time, their big tenant at One Bala in Bala Kinwood is a company called Philadelphia Insurance Company, and they said, look, we're talking, we're in negotiations with Philly Insurance. They're potentially looking at a stay and an expansion, and if they do stay with us, it would be like a 15-year lease re-up, and that would come in with 55 million in capex to improve the building, and another 15, 20 million in tenant improvement dollars for them. So big project. We would need a full-time project manager on the ground. So I was like, oh, great. This is the perfect opportunity for me to come back to Philly, work on a project and a property that I really love, that I know like the back of my hand. In middle of 2017, I got the call, and my old boss from Tishman, Rustam Kawazji, he reached out to me. He said, "Look, Steve, we were able to sign them up for 15 more years, and we want you to come back. However, if I hire you, I'm going to have to let you go in 3 years." And I'm like, why would I come back to that? But he said, "Look, on the flip side, I can hire you as a consultant. we give you a 2-year guarantee, full contract. Year three is kind of like a partial. Maybe we buy 60% of your time, the other 40% you can sell on the street in the variable market, build up your book of clients and build a business. And I said, okay, great. Like, why not?
Yeah.
If there was ever a time to do that and strike it out on my own, this was a perfect time. So yeah, I took that shot, I took that opportunity, and fast forward to today. I mean, I'm going on year 9 now in business, and it's been a great ride. I mean, I love what I do. I love working with independent clients and working the market and just seeing, whatever project opportunities are out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw a ton of projects on the website. I'm a golfer, so I saw the Oak Hill one that kind of piqued my interest. The
Oh yeah.
clubhouse renovation. That was one that's piqued my interest. But so it sounds like you have a 10-year-old now. Is that right? Or 9 or 10?
Uh, yeah, she's gonna be 10. She's gonna be 10 in July. So yeah,
That's
yep.
exciting.
She's not right now. Yep.
I also have three
It is.
kids, and my oldest is also 10. So we were on the same timeline there, at least with that one. So that's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. We stopped at 2. So we had Bella, who's 10, and then Lucas, who's 6. So we had girl, boy, and we figured, okay, that's good enough.
Everyone's different, but it's a handful. But it's something that I don't think I'll ever look back and regret. I live every moment to the fullest with them. So I'm sure that your wife was very appreciative when you made that change back in 2016 to stop spending all that time away and come home and spend some time with them. So awesome for you.
Yeah, certainly, certainly.
So let's hop into then some of the trends you're seeing in the industry
Yeah,
right now. So in project management, I mean that's a pretty broad statement, right? It could encompass so
yeah.
many different aspects, especially when related to the the construction of residential, industrial, commercial. There's just so much. So why don't you just kind of elaborate a little bit on maybe what you focus on and some trends that you're seeing?
Sure, yeah. So what we tell our prospective clients is that, we're an independent project management company focusing and specializing in commercial construction. And in terms of commercial construction, various verticals, right? So there's corporate interiors, so tenant fit outs, medical office fit outs, ground up construction that could be anywhere from a manufacturing facility to a logisticals hub. And so we kind of run the gamut in terms of project work that we take on. I would say current trends, at least in the Philadelphia metro market, and I'm sure this goes across the board. So right after COVID, corporate interiors took a hard hit. You had a lot of institutional owners that loved investing in office buildings, and that market prior to COVID was very robust. Since then, especially with the technology. And I think we were probably headed in that direction anyhow at some point. Siemens took that on in terms of the hybrid work office model years ago. So back in 2011, they launched what they called Siemens Office here in the U.S. But the Germans had been doing it in the early 2000s, testing out this model of what if we provide flexibility to our staff? They can work from home a day or two and come into the office maybe 3 or 4 days. So they were rolling that out early here in the US. And I would say buy-in was very challenging because people are very conservative and traditional in that way where they're used to a certain thing and they're like, oh, I come into work Monday through Friday and that's just what I do. And it was hard to kind of break people out of that mold, that change management piece of it. But yeah, corporate interiors, I mean, obviously has taken a huge hit. A lot of the institutional owners no longer are owning office buildings. Office buildings are probably trading 40% of their former value, which is, I mean, very, very difficult, right? Where you had a lot of pension funds, so teachers' pension funds invested in institutional office buildings. Now they're all like divesting. They're like, it's kryptonite. Like, keep me away. I'd rather invest in something that's going to retain its value. So the Philly metro market's tough because it's a market that I would say economically not as robust or diverse as other cities, highly driven by eds and meds. So some of our largest employers in the Philadelphia region are like the University of Pennsylvania and their hospital system. So not only the educational side, but also the hospital side that they manage. And what even then you're seeing consolidation within the hospital networks where independent hospital networks it's no longer sustainable to be independent. You need to be part of a larger network to share the cost, to share the burden. So there's all of a sudden this contraction and consolidation within that industry. So I would say it's been 25 was a very challenging year for me and my business. That was my 8th year in business, and sales kind of plummeted. We were bidding on a lot of work January through March. I think there was a lot of optimism just in terms of waiting for a federal rate cut. Never came. With all the economic uncertainty, tariff talks, a lot of my clients just they put their capital improvement projects or any projects that they had in mind on hold because they said, look, we're waiting for this rate cut. Now there's talk of tariffs, and we kind of want to wait and see after the dust settles what will happen. I kept advising my clients, look, these prices that we solicited on your behalf, they're not going to get any cheaper if you wait,
Right.
4, 5, 6 months. The time to strike is now, and sure enough, they didn't reach out to me until mid-July, end of July, and they wanted to take a look at their projects again, evaluate them, and I said, we're going to have to go back out to bid because the world has changed. So it's been a tough year, tough market. I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic that 26 will be much better than 25. And I would say, initially I thought maybe it was just, myself, my company that was feeling that pain. But I spoke with peers of mine in the industry, other general contractors that are out there from big to small. And they all said the same thing, that there was a lack of project work out there. So when you see the likes of Turner Construction and Hunter Roberts walking 5,000 square foot RFPs alongside the normal players that work in that kind of category, you're like, okay, we got bigger.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, it's a, you know, I know that just inflation alone and the price of, going to the grocery store and buying some eggs and some milk has just been, a completely different world
Yeah,
in one year. So it's interesting to hear you and hear from your side of things, from the construction side and the project management side, how that's affected that industry as well. So I
yeah.
think I think it'd be interesting to hear, like, so you talk about your clients, you talk about all the connections you have. I guess, how do you, find new clients? How do you market? How do you find these jobs? Like,
Yeah,
I think that's kind of an interesting asset to what you do. You have to find someone who wants to do all of this work. So talk to me a little bit about that.
yeah, so the sales cycle, and I'm sure you experience this as well. The sales cycle is long. And what I learned over the past year, so for the first, I'll call it 6 years of my company being in existence, I had Tishman Speyer as a large account of mine. Now they weren't 100% of my business, but they were a pretty large share of what I brought in every year. What I wasn't doing at the time, which I kind of learned the hard way, is you have to have a robust business development marketing plan. You have to be out there, and it's tough as an owner entrepreneur, as an owner operator with a small team. It can be very challenging to not only run the works. You're wearing several hats, right? So I'm wearing the HR hat, I'm wearing the project manager's hat, I'm wearing the owner's hat. I mean, you name it, I'm doing it. So it can be very challenging to peel off time, especially when you're very busy, to go out there and cultivate leads, develop your network, meet new people. It's very, very time consuming and challenging. At the end of year 6, Tishman and their partners decided to divest of that portfolio that we had been managing for the past 6 years, and they sold to a local player, small family owner operator, and they really didn't want the overhead. They didn't think they needed the help, so they said, look, we're just gonna pretty much let everyone go. So I had to transition from being primarily account based to transitioning to truly being 100% variable. And that was kind of a shock to the system. I was at one point kind of lost in terms of what do I do next, even though I have a robust network here in Philly. I know a lot of end users just out of from my corporate real estate days, but cultivating new relationships is very challenging. So I hired a sales coach, which was immensely helpful. I like to say I know how to sell. I don't think at the time though I had a process for the selling. It was kind of more like shotgun, uh, shatter kind of approach, not necessarily being intentional and directed. Having a sales coach and kind of running through the training really reinforced the reason for having a process behind your sales strategy. So I joined. What I'd like to say is I joined a lot of groups just to see what rooms would work. So I joined local chamber of commerces, different local networking groups, professional groups as well, like Crew, Cornet, ULI. They're constantly throwing events in the market. So kind of figuring out, all right, which groups resonate with me? Where do I find genuine connections? And ultimately the question is, what rooms work for me? So you test those out. I would say being consistent matters. Everyone likes to say this in any networking group that I'm a part of. You get what you put into it, right? So if you're a member that shows up once a month and they have a slate of 15 different events, you're not going to make genuine connections because people are going to be like, oh, I think I remember that guy. I thought I saw him at last month's meeting, but he hasn't been to anything since then. So being consistent is very, very important, very crucial to building your brand and brand awareness, letting people know what it is that you do. I think most sales coaches say they like to say, I know there's a statistic out on it where you have to tell the same person maybe 6 or 7 times or 8 times what is it that you do before it kind of sticks and lands. So consistency is key. But yeah, that's really been my approach. Yeah, last year was a big restructuring, rebuilding year for us. Like I said, I joined the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce, Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce, Philly Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I joined Crew in Lehigh Valley. I would say in terms of or profession, Crew is one of the really good ones, really good genuine connections in Crew that I appreciate and really leverage. So yeah, just the strategy is get out there. If you're an introvert, it's going to be a little tough for you. I'm naturally an extrovert, so it's not as tough for me. But yeah, you got to get out there and just shake hands, meet people.
That's interesting because I mean, there's a lot of different types of business models out there where you don't have to do that. So this is one that it seems like that's a vital part of it that distinguishes how you get business versus
Yeah,
someone else like on online that's selling a product that they could just go and put some Facebook ads out there or something on Meta, and then boom, that's how they get their clients. There's no face-to-face interaction. Maybe, like you said, better for an introvert. This one, obviously, you got to be able to get out and talk to people and be personable.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I would say in commercial real estate, it's a very old school traditional model. And one of the groups I joined last year is a group called Provisors, and their kind of tagline, their motto is know, like, trust, refer. So you have to go through those progressions, and it makes a lot of sense because you have to get to know the person, right? You want to get to know the person that you're transacting and doing business with. Then you have to trust them that they'll be able to, or know, like, trust, refer. So you have to like them. So that is this person likable? Do I want to do business with them? Do they come off as genuine and sincere? So if you don't have a high likability quotient, then I don't know, it's going to be tough for you to do business and gain clients. So you have to be likable. And then once you get through the know like, then it's the trust. Okay, does this person have what it takes? Does he or she have the necessary background, the technical expertise to help me on my project? And then ultimately, the final part of that life cycle is the refer. And I find that to be very true when you're doing business in commercial real estate. You have to be physical, you have to be out there. People want to be able to shake your hand and not see you as a person like, oh, that person, oh, I see them on LinkedIn all the time, but they're kind of hiding behind the screen. They're not out here, at these events meeting people. You have to be visible. You're right. I think there's other industries where you can have an online persona, online brand, and that sells, that automatically translates to sales. But I would say in our industry, because it's highly competitive and there's a ton of other project management firms out there like myself. So small independents all the way to your large CBREs, JLLs, Cushman and Wakefields. So there's a plethora of options for you to choose. So who are you going to refer the business to? You're going to refer the business to people that you know, you like, you trust, and then you refer the business to them. So gaining that level of relationship with folks, that's the challenge. You want to, in like any relationship, right? You have to be constantly active, follow up. You have to be engaged. Relationships are two-way streets in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't talk to someone if they don't want to talk to you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, where you see yourself going in the next 6 to 12 months. So let's try to pick out like three things that maybe you want to improve on, you're struggling with right now. If you had a magic wand and you wanted to be like, hey, boom, this is what I need to fix to get my business from A to B, and then here's how I want to do it in the
Yeah.
next 6 to 12 months. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, right, with all the groundwork that I laid down in 2025, seeing those seeds mature, my the goal would be to have a higher sales volume and close rate this year. So since I've nurtured and fostered these relationships and still pursuing those relationships and being present where I need to be, the goal is to increase sales for this year. So in moving forward, what I'd like to do is have a sustainable business model where the hard part is keeping and retaining talent, especially at my size or small team size, where they people that I hire, and what I like to do is train people up. So hire them kind of at APM level and show them the ropes. And I think it's very beneficial for their career path and trajectory to be able to work with the owner, hand in hand and hone in their skill set. But, at some point in year three, four, they start looking around because obviously I can't compensate them at the level that my fellow large competitors can. Like a 5-year project manager could probably make with, I would say, with a CBRE or JLL, they're probably getting paid anywhere between 120 to 130, and that's about market rate. And that's a challenge for a business of my size. So I've been working on a 3-year growth plan to figure out, okay, how do I get to a certain volume size, whether that's, 5 million in volume per year, or does it need to be 10 million volume in year, where I can compete with the larger firms and retain talent and provide them with, the market compensation that it dictates. So trying to develop that sustainable model, and I'm going through that growth plan now. I brought on a fractional CFO to help me with the strategy on what numbers do I need to achieve to create a sustainable model to retain talent. So that's a big goal of mine. I don't know if I'll necessarily have that down to the next 6 to 12 months, but that's a longer term goal. My longer term goal is to grow the business to where we're about, a 10 project manager firm. I feel like anything beyond 10, maybe the quality will decrease a bit. I like to still be in tune and tapped into all of the projects that we take on and we manage, and I can do that at a smaller scale. And I have no need to grow beyond 10 plus folks. I think 10 seems to be the ideal number.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's always tough. I feel like when some of the conversations that I've had, when owners get to that point where they need to take their hands off, right? They need to
Yeah.
trust someone else. They need to put their faith in either the people that they hired, the people that they contracted out. And I think that's something that I've heard a couple times now. That was a very tough pill to swallow for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, because they're so A-type personality, they're so go-getter, and they want to be involved. Like, it's almost, I don't want to say control freaks, but they want to know
Mhm.
what's going on. So
Yeah.
completely understand that. I got one more question for you. So are you going through implementing and developing this growth plan on your own and internally with the CFO, or have you outsourced anything to for someone to help with it as well?
So the CFO that I have is fractional, so that's outsourced. There's components of the business that are outsourced. So we have a marketing person that helps us with marketing. But yeah, the so actually the growth plan is through. Currently taking a program through the Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So they call it Business Accelerate. Program does is it takes entrepreneurs who's kind of in say the middle of their growth plan, just in terms of, maybe they've been around anywhere between like 3 and 8 years, and they help. So that's at the still kind of close to the infancy age, but you should be experiencing enough growth where you now are realizing, okay, I need to put something on paper. And what's funny is prior to this journey, prior to this joining this group, I did not have anything put down on paper. So going through the coursework, and it's provided by the Small Business Development Council of Pennsylvania, and there's SB, I think it's called SBDCA, or yeah, SBCA. SBDCA. Sorry, I think they're spread all throughout Pennsylvania. And what I didn't realize is part of this is that they're free resources for entrepreneurs and business owners, and I mean completely free. So they even offer like free marketing if you need marketing help, or if you need an entrepreneurial mentor. They'll pair you up with someone that's grown and developed their own businesses, and maybe they're now kind of sold those businesses and retired out, but they still want to be involved. It's been such an amazing kind of journey to go through. But they're actually the ones helping us, my cohort, pull together or 3 to 5 year growth plans. That in tandem with the work that I'm doing with the fractional CFO. So trying to develop, okay, what are our short-term, long-term goals, and how do we get there?
That's awesome. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know that there's organizations like that out there that you can
No,
look for. So I think that's going to be great for anyone who listens in here to just get that tidbit and maybe go look in their area and see
yeah.
if something like that's available.
And this is why I say getting out there is very important. I would not have been aware of these programs had I not joined various chamber of commerces within my region. I will say, so their marketing budgets, right? Like the organizations, nonprofit organizations like in SBDCA, who's trying to do this work gratis, they don't necessarily have large marketing budgets. So they're not out there promoting the services that they offer. This assistance, they're not really actively promoting it. I mean, I think maybe if you go to a job fair or maybe some kind of small business enterprise development type of fair, you're not going to see them with a table set up, basically listing out all the services that they provide. But those services are out there, they're available, and it is very important to just go out there, be present, and see what's out there and available. If you're a aspiring entrepreneur, there are a lot of free services out there, and folks that have gone through this before, done this before. They can help mentor you along this way, along this journey. So that's key. That's important.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that's great. That's the first that I've heard of that. So obviously, I think that's something interesting that everyone will, love to hear and kind of explore in their area. But I want to thank you, Steve. This has been, awesome, very informative, and an insight into your business, Premier Project Management. I hope that you continue to strive in the Philadelphia market and reach that 10 project goal and stay there consistently here in the future. And I look forward to seeing how everyone takes to this podcast, because I think it was very, very, very well said.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to kind of share my insights and my story.